The Galactic Council had existed for over 12 million years. They called themselves the Enlightened Collective. Thousands of species lived under their rule. They had laws. They had structure. They had peace. When humanity first reached the stars in the year 2089, the Council watched with curious eyes. A new species was always interesting, but humanity was different. The Council realized this very quickly. Humans did not follow the natural path of evolution that other species did. They were aggressive. They were emotional. They built weapons before they built hospitals. They waged wars against each other, even when they had enough resources for everyone. The Council observed Earth for 50 years before making contact. What they saw disturbed them deeply. Ambassador Velther of the Sinduri people was chosen to make first contact. He arrived on Earth with gifts and promises of friendship. The humans welcomed him with open arms. They were excited. They were hopeful. They believed they had finally found their place among the stars. But Velther was not there to welcome them. He was there to judge them. The ambassador spent 3 years on Earth. He studied human history. He read about their wars. He learned about the bombs they dropped on each other. He saw how they destroyed their own planet for profit. He watched how they treated each other based on skin color and beliefs. When he returned to the Council, his report was devastating. Humanity was declared a threat to galactic peace. The Council voted unanimously. Earth would be exiled. They would not be destroyed, because the Council did not believe in extinction. Instead, they would be isolated. A massive energy barrier was placed around the entire solar system. Nothing could get in. Nothing could get out. Humanity was trapped in their own corner of the galaxy. The news hit Earth like a nuclear bomb. People were angry. People were scared. Governments collapsed. Riots broke out across every continent. For 5 years, humanity tore itself apart. Some blamed the politicians. Some blamed the military. Some blamed each other. The world burned while the stars watched in silence. But then something changed. A woman named Elena Vasquez stood before the United Nations and spoke words that would echo through history. She said that the galaxy had judged humanity based on their worst moments. She said that humanity had always been more than their mistakes. She said that if the galaxy did not want them, then humanity would build their own future. They would not beg for acceptance. They would not cry for mercy. They would rise. Her speech united the broken world. For the first time in human history, every nation agreed on something. They would not waste their energy trying to break the barrier. They would not spend their lives hating the Council. Instead, they would focus on becoming something greater. They would prove the galaxy wrong not with weapons, but with progress. The next 100 years transformed Earth completely. Without access to the galaxy's resources, humanity had to become self-sufficient. They cleaned their oceans. They healed their forests. They developed new energy sources that did not harm the planet. The barrier that was meant to be their prison became their motivation. Every problem they solved was a victory against those who had abandoned them. Scientists worked together across borders. Engineers shared their discoveries freely. Artists created works that celebrated human resilience. Children were taught that they were not rejected outcasts, but pioneers of a new path. The shame of exile was transformed into pride. Humanity was building something special, and they were doing it alone. Dr. Marcus Chun was born 60 years after the exile began. He grew up hearing stories about the galaxy that had rejected his ancestors. But he did not feel anger. He felt curiosity. He wondered what lay beyond the barrier. He wondered if other species ever thought about the humans they had locked away. Most importantly, he wondered if there was a way to reach them. Marcus became the greatest physicist of his generation. He studied the barrier for 20 years. Every scientist before him had tried to break through it with force. Marcus took a different approach. He realized that the barrier was not a wall. It was a frequency. It vibrated at a specific pattern that blocked all matter and energy. But what if something could exist outside normal matter and energy? His research led to the discovery of quantum tunneling on a massive scale. By converting matter into a quantum state, objects could pass through the barrier without touching it. It was like walking through a wall by becoming a ghost. The technology took another 30 years to perfect. When it was finally ready, humanity faced a choice. They could use this technology to escape their prison. They could rejoin the galaxy and demand their place among the stars. Many voices called for revenge. Many wanted to show the Council what humanity had become. But the World Council, which now governed all of Earth, made a different decision. They would not escape. They would expand. Using the quantum technology, humanity began to explore the space beyond the barrier without leaving their solar system. They sent probes to distant stars. They discovered planets that the Galactic Council had never visited. They found resources that the Enlightened Collective did not know existed. All of this was done in secret. Captain Sarah Okonkwo led the first human mission beyond the barrier. She commanded a ship called the Defiance. Her crew of 200 were the best humanity had to offer. They did not go to fight. They went to explore. Their mission was to find new worlds where humanity could spread without asking permission from anyone. The Defiance discovered 17 habitable planets in its first year. Each one was far from the territories controlled by the Council. Sarah planted human flags on worlds that had never seen intelligent life. She named mountains after human heroes and oceans after human dreams. The galaxy had exiled Earth, but humanity was quietly claiming the stars anyway. Word of humanity's expansion eventually reached the Galactic Council. They were shocked. They were confused. The barrier was supposed to be unbreakable. How had these primitive creatures escaped? Ambassador Velther, now elderly and retired, was called back to investigate. What he discovered changed everything he believed. Humanity had not broken the barrier. They had evolved beyond it. In 200 years of isolation, they had achieved technological advances that took other species millions of years. Their medicine could cure diseases that Council scientists still struggled with. Their energy systems were cleaner and more efficient than anything in the known galaxy. Their art and culture had flourished in ways that made other civilizations seem stagnant. Velther traveled to one of the human colony worlds. He expected to find angry warriors ready for revenge. Instead, he found children playing in parks. He found scientists sharing knowledge freely. He found people who had moved past their resentment and built something beautiful. A human child offered him a flower and asked if he wanted to play. In that moment, the ambassador realized that his original judgment had been wrong. He returned to the Council with a new report. He told them that humanity had not become the monsters they feared. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before. They were a species that grew stronger from rejection. They turned their prison into a garden. They transformed their exile into expansion. The Council had tried to contain them, and in doing so, they had created something extraordinary. The Council debated for 10 years about what to do. Some wanted to extend the barrier. Some wanted to attack the human colonies. Others wanted to pretend nothing had happened. But a growing number of voices called for a different approach. They wanted to end the exile and welcome humanity into the galactic community. The final vote was close. By a margin of just 12 votes, the Council decided to lower the barrier. Ambassadors were sent to Earth with offers of peace and trade. They expected humanity to accept eagerly. They were surprised by the response. Human President James Nakamura met with the Council representatives. He listened to their offers politely. Then he said something that no species had ever said to the Council before. He said no. Humanity did not need the Council's approval anymore. They had their own colonies. They had their own trade routes. They had their own future. But he also said that humanity did not want war. They did not want revenge. They wanted something different. They wanted equality. Not as members of the Enlightened Collective, but as partners. Humanity would share their technology. They would open their worlds to trade. They would even help species that the Council had ignored. But they would never again let others decide their fate. The galaxy changed after that day. Humanity became a third force between the Council and the empty reaches of space. Species that had been oppressed by Council rules began to seek human help. Worlds that had been forgotten found new hope. The exile that was meant to eliminate a threat had created something the galaxy had never seen. A truly free civilization. Elena Vasquez's statue now stands on 1,000 worlds. Her words are taught to children of every species. The galaxy had tried to cage humanity, but cages only work on creatures that accept them. Humans never accepted their exile. They never stopped dreaming. They never stopped building. They chose a different path, and that path led them to the stars. The Galactic Council still exists. They still maintain their laws and their structure. But they no longer speak of humanity as a threat. They speak of them with something close to respect. Some even speak of them with envy, because humanity proved something that the galaxy had forgotten. True greatness does not come from following the rules of others. It comes from writing your own story. And humanity was only just beginning to write theirs.